no applause, no public outbursts. We just keep our comments quietly to ourselves.
Modeled after an ordinance in Santa Cruz that's been in place for 12 years, will dramatically reduce the numbers of animals going into shelters and dramatically reduce the associated costs with that. The City of Los Angeles, and I don't have the numbers for the rest of the state, is spending $150 million to build new shelters to deal with the numbers of animals coming in. I'm sure that there's other cities and counties around the state that are suffering the same problems.
Kurt Ransom, Regional Program Manager for the Humane Society United States West Coast Regional Office. I represent 1.2 million Californians, and as a former humane officer, animal control officer, and shelter worker, and as a taxpayer, I certainly support this bill.
Assets will be over $1 billion. The cost to run an animal shelter will increase to over $500 million because everywhere they put down mandated spay and neuter, the costs have jacked up at least double. In the case of LA, it's been 269%. AB 1634 will result in a $47.4 million cost of law enforcement. This is because of the loss of the canine units, which cannot be replaced, the resultant use of more and more officers to do the jobs that one dog can do. And when you have a 30% reduction in law enforcement personnel at this point, that's going to draw away a lot of numbers of officers who should be out in the street working other areas that because a dog would take care of it, they would have to have more officers to do it. There will be a $215 million annual loss of sales tax revenue to the state of California. $300 million loss of license revenue from dogs and cats. This includes the loss of hunting activity revenue when dogs are used in hunting, which is in itself $155 million loss. The cost of our California economy will be over $5.3 billion. These are not my figures. These are coming from government agencies and those organizations that represent the people we have talked to. For instance, this includes the $4 billion loss to the pet products and food industry, which is given to us from the American Pet Products Manufacturers Association. The Cattlemen's Association estimates a $500 million loss to the cattle industry because when they have no dogs to run cattle and sheep, they have to hire the old standby, which is our cowboys and horses, and it costs $20,000 per year. The American Kennel Club, which my colleague will talk about in a minute, will be a loss of an additional millions of dollars. The cost to the blind and disabled is incalculable, but certainly will include lawsuits for violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The president of the International Association of Assistance Dog Partners is quoted as saying, "Guide dogs for the blind and canine companions for their independence would face virtual annihilation from this bill." AB 1634 eliminates all mixed breed mutts. No recourse, no appeal.
Scientifically sorted there, I think they're almost 100% accurate. There might be a stray back and forth here, no pun intended. My office has received, this is the stack from the support, this is the stack from the opposed. And then every year, and if they don't do it within 30 days, it's going to be a $500 rollover every 30 days or 75 days, depending on how you interpret it. $500 fine. We've really gone a little overboard here on an emotional issue, and so there's other methods to accomplish this, especially for domestic animals, but the wild ones is really where the problem lies, especially in an area like mine up north. And so this is a very difficult issue for a lot of people, very passionate on both sides, but this is really a liberty issue here that I think goes way too far. We're supposed to uphold liberty and freedom in this legislature down here, and this effort here really oversteps those bounds, so I have to be an over on this today.
For me, again, as a vegetarian who believes in protecting animal lives and preserving them, as well as a taxpayer, I think this is a great bill. I applaud your leadership. I know.
There's a list on our website.
Resources. We're a poor farming community, and maybe we can bring some of the resources from the wealthier part of the state that want to be able to help us to spay and neuter, but we don't have them in our.
And unfortunately, if we're not careful and we lose control on these kind of issues, which unfortunately some Californians would say, oh, is this the most important thing? Should we decide it? The fact is, if we're willing to lose control and let the government tell us about how to deal with our pets, what's next? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do? Pretty soon it's going to be, and in fact, we've already actually had legislation in the past before about even what kind of animals you can have, what breeds you should have, what are safe, what aren't safe. Again, do you really believe the people behind us are able to make those decisions better than you are? I don't. No. I don't. And so that's why it's important for you to be here. I believe what you have been doing here today, that bill may have gotten out today, but the fact is, and you heard some of the testimony, people didn't want it. Some of those people didn't want to vote for it, but they did anyhow. Bill, so that we don't have to see this in the Senate. Amen. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask if Beth Shea, who's with the International Association of Assistant Dog Partners, would come forward. And Beth is an attorney. She's been doing a lot of the research on the constitutionality of this bastardized bill. Come over here and say hello to these people.
What I said in the committee room was the proponents of this bill have defined the problem wrong. It is not a breeding problem, it is an irresponsible ownership problem. Thus framed wrongly, this bill has no solutions to offer, but it does bring dramatic fiscal and personal realities with it. As an unfunded state mandate, this will cost our local jurisdictions millions in costs. What is the cost to a policeman who loses his life because his canine is not available? What is the cost to a child who loses her life because she is lost and there is not a search and rescue dog to rescue her? What is the cost to the lives of the disabled, like myself, who rely on our dogs to help us in our daily lives? What this bill will do is it will force the extinction of these working dogs. This bill will bankrupt California in more than money. It will bankrupt it in the goodwill and faith of its citizens.
Thanks,